For me, a friend's father was actually involved in the whole incident, and so he narrated us like what happened. The whole journey is waste, So there is
The very interesting thing behind that scene, basically when we finished shooting that scene, I remember editing it, and we finished editing that scene, and so in my first cut of the edit, I had like him waking up and everything. I had treated it with like slow motion, and like you get that kind of like impact of him getting up and all. And I remember when Aditya Chopra, he saw the first episode, when he saw the fourth episode, I mean, he loved the fourth episode. His only feedback was this one point. He's like, that scene, don't treat it,
Stylized.
don't treat it in this.
So just let life take you. I don't know where I'm headed. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just really enjoying right now.
Hello everyone, this is Aishwarya and you're watching OTTplay show Reel, and today I'm so excited to interview the team of the Railwaymen because it is actually one of my favorite shows of 2023. So thank you for that.
Wow.
And
thank
congratulations.
You for that.
Thank you.
The first question I want to ask every one of you, in a project which takes a couple of years to planning and scripting and finally creating it, at what point in time did it hit you, the tragedy hit you, like each one of you, that okay, this is actually happened and it was something which is unimaginable?
Start.
So when I started, actually before Shiv brought this, I only knew about the tragedy through general knowledge and statistics, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't make you feel as much, but when I was researching for the character and I went there and I went to the basti and I saw that people that weren't even there at that time, but through generations, that gas has somehow been passed on, and people that weren't there are still victims of it. That's when it started settling within me, the magnitude of what had happened.
I was introduced to it when I did a film called Bhopal Express in 1998. It was a sensitive topic then, even in Bhopal. So I remember that shoot, we could not shoot in Bhopal at all. We had to do Hyderabad for Bhopal. But of course now it's all fizzled out in terms of the effect. Hopefully Railwaymen will kind of stir at least the conscience of people involved and things like that. And for me, I was introduced then, so I knew the horrific nature of that particular catastrophe. And of course, what I didn't know was the contribution of the Railwaymen and the courage they displayed. That is what really attracted me here.
For me, it was just the research. I think I was reading up survivor accounts. It was just one pages of who were there that night, who lived, how many people they lost. While I was reading those stories, that's I think when it hit me. And of course, looking through archival footage was heartrending. The attempt was to make the show even just touch a fraction of that would be a victory for us.
For me, that's Aayush, by the way. He's the writer of the show. I'm the director. No, people won't recognize us.
There will be a ticker also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when for me, I think the first time I was kind of introduced to the topic was, it featured in your in your chemistry books somewhere, like as a very small, as a very small part somewhere. I think that's the first time I kind of got introduced, and then I remember going on a school trip in the 7th or 8th grade to Bhopal, and to Madhya Pradesh, and Bhopal was one of the destinations on the trip, and I think that's the first time I understood. I learned that something like this had happened, and then of course the deep dive of it. So I love reading about historical events, and then if I hear about something, I like just googling it and reading a lot more about it, and watching YouTube videos on it and stuff. And I remember knowing a little more as I grew older, but I think the first time when it hit me about just the sheer magnitude of it was when we started working on the Railwaymen. I think that's when I realized oh my, like just I was just shocked by what had happened,
Yeah.
and I think that was the driving force behind taking this story to the world.
For me, a friend's father was actually involved in the whole incident,
Oh.
and yeah, so he narrated us like what happened. But that also honestly was just a conversation, and one evening, and you move ahead in life, and you do other things. But yeah, reading this script, shooting this project made you realize again the gravity of it, and the the whole scale of it, and yeah, that you realize that it's should have been talked much more, in our films, in our cinema.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was very glad that I could be part of, all of us could be part of such a story, which would somewhere again, if not start a conversation, but give some kind of appreciation to the people, especially the railwaymen, where we don't ever realize their contribution in other things, but to Bhopal Gas leak, how these guys handled and saved thousands of people.
Absolutely. The 1984 was a memorable year for the country. I mean, assassination of Indira Gandhi, followed by anti-Sikh riots, and then Bhopal Gas Tragedy. So, of course, it was obvious that anti-Sikh riots will be included in the chapter as is. But how did you both decide on mother and son story for it, specifically?
I don't think it
Yeah.
was a very conscious decision. I think it just it was an organic choice.
Yeah.
Was there a point where the kid was a girl?
Yeah. There was that point where the kid was. No, there was a point where the kid was always a boy. But I remember we were discussing, and I told you someone I knew had to change their had to be
Disguise their appearance.
disguise their
and make
appearance,
sure-
and that's what we brought in. That
because
was,
the boys were maybe being targeted more.
yeah.
So it was easier or safer to travel as a girl, and so yeah, that came later. Other than that, it was just.
There was no reason. I mean,
It wasn't about a mother and a son. It was a mother and a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, and you don't know. It's not a complete. It's not a complete family, a mother and
Yeah.
a child. There has to be a father somewhere, and never mentioning that and never seeing that person, kind of tells you the horrors that these people are coming through. So the idea, I think, was initially to show an incomplete family on the run, and leave you to imagine what happened before this, and not get into it, because imagination, I think, can do much more than spelling it out.
Yeah, because they hardly have dialogues. It's the actions which are speaking.
Yeah. Also, it
volumes
was like
about
kind of. The intention was to kind of give you a sense of how trains in that era and today they almost like they're almost like town halls, because there's like a conversation going on
Yeah,
everywhere in a train, and you could choose to be a part of any of those conversations.
Mm.
And that's how, it came from more the feeling of what we could build into the story of this train, and then also build a story of a railwayman around it, which is played by Raghubir Yadav.
Yeah.
Like, to build this kind of story that the railways as an organization does not have heroes that wear capes. They exist in all shapes and sizes, whether it's in the official role of a station master or a guard or a general manager or a loco pilot, or in the fact that every Indian is a railwayman in the garb of the express bandit. Like, every human being who lives in India, having used the railways, is also a proud railwayman.
Yeah.
So it
And in
comes.
this case, it's got a very different relation to
Yeah,
trains.
exactly. Yeah.
railways.
So that's why he's a railwayman as well, right?
I came across an observation that emphasized on the real life tragedy and also the fictional stories which came along. So how did you, as actors and filmmakers, make sure that you didn't go wrong? Because sometimes what happened, like even in criticism, or sometimes as a viewer, people see that okay, the topic is being diverted from the tragedy when a fictional aspect comes in. So how did you make sure that you didn't go wrong in that way?
So I mean, I'll take this and then Aayush can kind of continue. But when we started off, like, Aayush had a certain kind of direction of where the story should go, and I remember like me and him just having discussions about that. Along with it being educative and informative, we have to make it engaging, and to make it engaging, you kind of have to dramatize things to give it ebbs and flows, so that you have character, then you build in characters in them which can give like more structuring. So it was never कि अरे ये fictionalize कर देते ये मजा आ जाएगा, whatever. It was, I think, a very natural course of taking things like subconsciously, like you want the relief to reach, right? You want the relief to reach the station. So it's very important for the relief for you to feel that the relief may not reach, and that can only come by like kind of fictionalizing what may happen to the relief if it doesn't reach. It's to bring out that emotion in you of how important it is for the relief to reach. It's not to dramatize that particular moment, like or over dramatize it rather.
As storytellers, you also have to be thoda sa conscious of the fact कि incidents won't, they might bring something to the notice of an audience, but it's the stories that will engage you. It's people in the characters will engage you.
Yeah.
So it's very important to build those characters and to have the freedom of charting their ebbs and flows and making sure कि you want to watch them for the over the course of 4 episodes and over the course of this entire incident. The incident is a backdrop. Then your investment in your in point is the characters.
And one of the interesting sequences was of KK sir. I mean, I remember my friend texting me, "Oh, did Iftikhar die?" And I didn't reply to her for next 10 minutes. I was like, "Let her watch it," and she's like, "Thank God." She had him. So because that is something which comes as a surprise. It's a relief, but like you see in movies, right? When it is used, these kind of sequences are used for comic relief. When we see suddenly someone is on fire and suddenly reappears and something. So as a performer, and also while creating that scene, how did you not cross that tight thin line where it's a happy scene that your character is alive, but it doesn't come across as funny also?
That's because it's originally happened with many people. As the super, if you notice,
they're mentioned,
and these are factual events. So they've summed it up into this person's character. So once you know it's factually happened, and that point number one. Number two is that he is in that state of mind of rescuing people throughout. Even when he had fallen unconscious, he was still in that state. He wanted to still rescue, and he has PTSD problems. So a person of that kind, when he goes and comes back from consciousness, he's still in that zone of rescuing people. He doesn't realize where he is, because all through, I think, just his adrenaline was working. He was just doing his stuff without realizing what's happening to him. So I kept that intact when I came alive, and then proceed. That was my starting point. From there on, what happened organically. It didn't really, there was no design to it. So I remember when I did it, then Rubaiyat told me, hey, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, there, things like that. So these things happen organically. So you just at that moment, you just need to trust it and go and see what happens.
Also, I think the whole situation is so grim.
Yeah.
You have dead bodies burning all around you. There is no point that you would ever think that this would go comical or any such way. There is a whole journey you have seen of the characters and of the situation that you have reached a certain point. Is if by then you think that the situation can go comical, the whole journey is waste. You know, so there is.
So there's a very interesting thing behind that scene. Basically, when we finished shooting that scene, I remember editing it, and we finished editing that scene, and so in my first cut of the edit, I had like him waking up and everything. I had treated it with like slow motion, and like you get that kind of like impact of him getting up and all. And I remember when Aditya Chopra, he saw the first episode. When he saw the 4th episode, I mean, he loved the 4th episode. His only feedback was this one point. He's like, that scene, don't treat it,
stylized.
Don't treat it in this slow motion and suspended time way.
Yeah.
He said, just treat it the way it is. Just let him just break out of it and go into that stupor, just the way it's supposed to be, and just don't give it that kind of dramatized treatment, because by dramatizing it, you're probably making it more you're giving the audience a
More
bigger chance.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're telling them that this is a big
Yeah.
big thing. The fact that it's happened on that morning so many times that you
Yeah,
just
multiple accounts.
multiple accounts of it, just leave it the way it is and let it just play out in normal and not in slow motion. And I think that really changed the impact of
Yeah.
the whole thing, because it comes to you as a shock, and by the time you grasp what's going on and this could have happened to more people, the show kind of
Yeah.
culminates. Yeah.
Which is why the delay also, I think, in recognizing his son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Because the trooper has to go. Is what I'm assuming after I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that could have done with his character also. I mean, it was quite heartbreaking to
Yeah,
watch him,
yeah,
like
yeah.
because he was literally the innocence Iman maintains throughout, and even despite knowing that he knows the harsh reality from the beginning, that
Yeah.
if this happens, and he has accepted that my family is staying there, so I'm not going back. And getting into that groove and also making it so believable. I mean, I'm appreciating it. It was so well done, because I mean, you're still rising talent, and you started off with Kala, but I'm sure this was also in the pipeline, because this was announced like couple of years back. So, I mean, back to back, two of these characters which has come your way. So now at this point in time, when you look back in just 1 year, 3 varied characters, how do you think now your journey? I believe that now it has begun, and how do you see it?
I don't. I just don't. I don't sit and analyze my journey. You know, I think it's extremely important. Not extremely important. It's just the way I have been brought up. To be honest, it's the more you sit and think about where life is taking you, the less you are letting life take you. You know. So just let life take you. I don't know where I'm headed. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just really enjoying right now.
Yeah. And coming to Divyenndu, even this character, it is something which brings a lighter moments also quite sometimes. Even when you're pointing a gun at someone, it's like you're rooting for him, but you also know his intentions also. I mean, it's a very gray area where you're morally corrupt, but you are also turning into a savior. Does that, as an actor, how do you what is your intention when you're approached for these characters, where you're actually going in a wrong way? Your intentions until the last scene, it's clear that you want to get
Right.
the money out of that. So, as an actor, how do you actually get out of that dilemma on approaching these characters?
You don't actually. You should be in that dilemma. And I tell you honestly, it's the genius of the writing which makes you be in that dilemma of a person who